The first time the new equipment arrived, it gleamed under the fluorescent lights of the restaurant kitchen. The corporate pitch had been simple. This upgrade would streamline prep, standardize quality, and reduce errors. On paper, it was genius. Consistency across hundreds of stores, reduced training headaches, and measurable efficiency gains. But on the floor, reality quickly diverged from the blueprint. The first challenge was the human factor. Fast food kitchens run on muscle memory. Employees memorize the rhythm of assembly lines and the placement of fry baskets. Introducing a new automated system disrupted that rhythm. During lunch rushes, the difference was glaring. Employees paused mid-task, consulting screens and double-checking settings. Tasks that once flowed automatically now required conscious attention, and the natural rhythm of the line slowed. Queuing issues emerged almost immediately. The automation promised to standardize cooking times, but introduced rigid cycles. When orders piled up, the equipment became a choke point. Employees tried to sequence tasks differently, juggling multiple items on timers. What had been marketed as a speed enhancer began to feel like a governor on throughput. In peak hours, the line stretched visibly. Customers noticed slightly longer waits, and stress levels rose. Maintenance revealed another hidden cost. Automated systems demanded calibration, cleaning, and occasional repair. Even minor technical hiccups slowed production for minutes at a time. Employees accustomed to manually adjusting fryers found themselves waiting for alerts or approvals from the machine. The downtime, though minor in isolation, accumulated rapidly, exposing the fragile dependency that automation had introduced. Franchisees noticed an additional layer of tension: training. The new system required careful instruction and ongoing reinforcement. Corporate had assumed a uniform rollout, but locations varied widely in staffing levels and employee experience. Some crews adapted quickly, others struggled, leading to inconsistent output and customer experiences. A burger might emerge perfectly consistent in one store, while another location produced unevenly cooked items. The system's promise of uniformity became dependent not just on technology, but on human adaptation. The bottleneck also altered customer psychology. Patrons were accustomed to near-instant service. Even a few extra minutes of wait became noticeable. The line was no longer a seamless flow. It felt segmented by the equipment cycle. Orders that previously moved together now appeared staggered. Small inconsistencies in timing affected perceived value. The innovation's brilliance on paper collided with the messy reality of human expectations. Managers faced the paradox of choice. The system allowed for fine-grained customization. Every additional option compounded complexity in real time. A simple substitution required recalibration of timing. What was marketed as flexibility slowed production rather than accelerating it. Lines backed up. Customers became impatient. Employees felt trapped between the ideal of precision and the reality of throughput. Corporate analysts initially saw metrics that suggested the upgrade was working. Error rates declined in controlled test conditions, but these numbers masked subtle trade-offs. Overall, service speed dipped, peak hour throughput decreased. Customer satisfaction showed inconsistent trends. The machine delivered its promises under controlled scenarios. Everyday restaurant conditions exposed a misalignment between technological capability and operational reality. And yet, despite the slowdown, there was no denying the allure of the upgrade. It looked modern, it promised reliability, and it signaled innovation to customers and investors alike. For the staff, however, every order was a negotiation, balancing the machine's cycles, their own muscle memory, and the unpredictable flow of incoming orders. Success was no longer just about skill, speed, and instinct. It now required coordination with a device. The question that would haunt managers across dozens of locations became inevitable. Could a single technological solution truly improve kitchen performance? Or had the genius of automation inadvertently slowed the very process it was meant to accelerate? The first few months of implementation revealed patterns that corporate hadn't fully anticipated. During peak lunch and dinner hours, the new system's rigid cycles became a visible bottleneck. Fry baskets completed on schedule, ovens beeped in predictable rhythms. But the pace of customer orders was anything but predictable. Drive-thru tickets piled up, counter orders backed into the dining room line. Employees constantly adjusted timing to try to keep everything moving. The automation had delivered consistency in theory, but throughput was suffering. Employees felt the friction acutely. Muscle memory no longer guided every move. Instinct had to be tempered with screens, timers, and alerts. Even minor mistakes now had outsized effects. A misaligned tray or delayed sauce application could ripple across multiple orders. Where the pre-upgrade workflow allowed flexibility and improvisation, the new system imposed a rigid cadence that was difficult to bend. Ironically, what was intended to reduce errors created new ones. Training became another operational hurdle. Managers had to teach staff not just the function of the machine, but sequencing and prioritization. Locations with high turnover struggled particularly hard. Even experienced employees sometimes reverted to old habits under pressure. Corporate assumed that a few hours of instruction and a digital manual would suffice. In the chaos of real-world service, consistent execution required ongoing reinforcement and oversight. Some franchises adapted well, but many faced uneven results. Maintenance and downtime added an additional layer of complexity. The system, sophisticated as it was, required daily calibration and cleaning cycles. Even brief interruptions could stall orders for several minutes. Unlike a traditional fryer or oven, the automated system demanded adherence to protocol. Employees became dependent on the machine's digital alerts. A minor glitch could snowball into a half-hour backlog during peak service. Order sequencing was another subtle source of slowdown. Unlike traditional lines where tasks could overlap, the automated system required synchronization. If one item was delayed, the entire order could be staggered. Patrons expecting a uniform, fast experience noticed the slight disruptions. Fries arriving after the burger caused displeasure. The innovation that promised precision inadvertently introduced small inconsistencies. Even customer psychology played a role in the slowdown. Patrons were accustomed to immediate gratification. The machine's precise timing meant that orders occasionally arrived in bursts. For a lunch crowd conditioned to grab, pay, and go, subtle delays felt frustrating. Marketing could highlight consistency and modernity, but the perception of speed suffered. In practical terms, the upgrade improved technical performance but diminished the very experience that drove repeat visits. Corporate reports initially emphasized the benefits. Portion consistency improved, error rates decreased, and quality scores ticked upward. But a deeper look at throughput, average service times, and customer complaints revealed the hidden trade-offs. Standard metrics had improved under controlled conditions, but real-world service revealed the tension between mechanical efficiency and operational flow. The core lesson was becoming evident. Automation alone could not replace workflow design, staff adaptation, and dynamic problem-solving. Genius on paper did not guarantee speed or satisfaction in practice. The system demanded a recalibration of every human and operational variable in the kitchen. Without that holistic approach, the upgrade could slow service, frustrate staff, and undermine efficiency. And so, the question loomed: could the promise of technological precision ever align with the messy realities of a busy fast food kitchen? The answers were not immediately obvious, but lunch and dinner rushes made them painfully real. The following months made the operational impact undeniable. Managers began tracking metrics more closely. Order-to-delivery times crept upward, drive-through wait times fluctuated unpredictably. Peak hour throughput dropped in ways that hadn't occurred with traditional equipment. The system had been designed to standardize, but it exposed hidden bottlenecks. Even employees who had mastered the new workflow found themselves pausing mid-task to reconcile the machine's timing with incoming orders. The faster they tried to move, the more they risked errors, and the slower they moved, the more visible the delay became to customers. The human-machine interface was at the center of the problem. Employees had to coordinate their actions with automated cycles, constantly monitor status lights, and sequence multiple items according to machine readiness. What had been intuitive muscle memory became a sequence of conscious, deliberate steps. During the lunch rush, a single forgotten alert or misread display could cascade into incomplete or delayed orders. The automation reduced one type of error but introduced another: bottleneck errors. The paradox was clear. Precision on the micro level had created inefficiency on the macro scale. Training and turnover exacerbated the friction. Each new hire had to learn both the traditional workflow and the nuances of the automated system. While some franchises invested in repeated training and oversight, others relied on brief orientation sessions. The result was inconsistent performance. Some stores executed orders with near-perfect timing, while others struggled with misaligned trays, delayed items, or uneven portioning. Operational inconsistency became a systemic problem, and the promise of uniform quality proved difficult to realize. Maintenance interruptions continued to reveal vulnerabilities. Even minor glitches, a jammed tray, misaligned sensor, or software reset, halted the line and required staff intervention. Unlike a conventional oven or fryer, which could be tweaked on the fly, the automated system demanded adherence to protocol. Staff had to stop, troubleshoot, or await maintenance support, introducing downtime that rapidly compounded during peak periods. The intended speed gains were eroded by real-world unpredictability. Customer perception began reflecting the internal friction. Patrons noticed slight delays and staggered order arrivals, fries coming after burgers, sandwiches paused mid-assembly, or extra toppings delayed by machine cycles, all contributed to a subtle sense that service was slower. In fast food, perception often matters as much as reality. Even minor deviations in expected timing can influence satisfaction and repeat business. The upgrade, while technologically impressive, struggled to align with the psychological expectation of immediate, predictable service. The complexity of customization magnified these issues. The system allowed for modifications, extra cheese, substitution of proteins, or additional toppings, but each adjustment required recalibration of machine cycles, prep sequencing, and timing. A small number of customized orders could cascade into larger slowdowns, especially when volume was high. The very flexibility intended to enhance service and customer satisfaction became a source of operational friction. Corporate data told a fragmented story. Test kitchens reported measurable improvements in portion consistency, reduced error rates, and quality scores that exceeded previous standards. Real-world locations, however, exposed the limits of controlled conditions. Throughput slowed, staff stress increased, and minor inconsistencies became noticeable to customers. Metrics that looked excellent in controlled trials masked the complexity and fragility of integrating automation into live, high-volume service. Ultimately, the system highlighted a central lesson. Technological upgrades cannot operate in isolation. Precision, standardization, and innovation mean little if they conflict with human workflow, kitchen design, or customer expectations. The genius of automation is only as effective as the environment in which it operates. Without careful integration, rigorous training, and operational redesign, even the most promising equipment can slow a fast food kitchen instead of accelerating it. The question remained, could managers and staff adapt fully? Or had the upgrade unintentionally created a ceiling for service speed and customer satisfaction? The answer would emerge only with time, experimentation, and adjustment. As the months turned into a full operational cycle, the consequences of the upgrade became impossible to ignore. Some stores had adapted, staff had internalized the new rhythms, and peak hour performance stabilized. But even in the best locations, subtle bottlenecks lingered. The system's precision demanded constant monitoring, and minor disruptions, software alerts, tray misalignment, or sudden surges in orders, still created cascading delays. What was marketed as a revolutionary acceleration of service had, in practice, imposed a ceiling on throughput that managers had to work around every day. The cumulative effect was a recalibration of expectations. Corporate had promised speed, consistency, and reliability. Kitchens delivered consistency and, in some ways, higher quality output. But speed had been compromised in subtle ways. Orders no longer flowed in the smooth, continuous rhythm of a traditional line. Instead, the cadence was dictated by machine cycles, pause points, and workflow interlocks. Employees learned to anticipate the system's quirks, but each deviation required manual intervention. Every intervention chipped away at the promised gains. Franchise owners began making difficult choices. Some limited customization, choosing to restrict substitutions to reduce complexity. Others experimented with hybrid workflows, blending automated cycles with manual prep to regain lost throughput. Some invested in additional staff during peak hours to compensate for slowed production. Each adaptation addressed symptoms, but highlighted the fundamental misalignment between ambitious automation and the unpredictable realities of fast food service. Customer feedback reinforced the lesson. Complaints often focused on perceived delays, order inconsistencies, or items arriving in unexpected sequences. Positive notes emphasized quality, but in fast food, speed is part of the value equation. Even slight disruptions in timing could erode satisfaction and repeat business. Technological upgrades, even those delivering precision, cannot substitute for the human and operational dimensions of high-volume kitchens. The broader takeaway became a cautionary tale for the industry. Automation and technological innovation promise standardization, consistency, and operational efficiency, but they also introduce dependencies, rigid cycles, and new failure modes. Without redesigning the full ecosystem, workflow, staffing, training, contingency management, and customer communication, upgrades that sound brilliant on paper can slow everything down. They create an invisible tension. The very device that guarantees perfection in isolation becomes the source of friction in practice. Some operators eventually scaled back reliance on the system, integrating it selectively rather than fully. Others retooled kitchens to accommodate it more naturally, redesigning prep stations, modifying order flows, and adjusting staffing models. In every case, the lesson was clear. Technological promise must be reconciled with operational reality. Genius in design does not guarantee genius in execution. By the end of the experiment, the upgrade had left its mark on every level of the operation. Managers understood its limits, staff adapted to its quirks, and corporate learned that innovation cannot succeed without holistic integration. It had delivered consistency and precision, yes, but at the subtle cost of speed, flexibility, and sometimes customer satisfaction. The hum of the kitchen, once a seamless pulse of orders moving effortlessly from prep to plate, now carried a more complex rhythm. And in that rhythm, a lesson lingered for every fast food operator considering technological upgrades. Efficiency, speed, and quality are inseparable in practice. Disrupt one element, even with the best of intentions, and the whole system feels it. The genius of automation had arrived, but it had also slowed everything down, leaving managers, staff, and customers to navigate the hidden trade-offs that no blueprint could fully reveal.